I'm going to tell you, yesterday I found out the fact that on the 4th of January 1916, Enrique Garcia, at his shop at Paseo de San Juan 110 in Barcelona, he was putting Andres Segovia tickets in your hands if you wanted to buy them. At the Centro Gallego in Barcelona, which was about 3 kilometers, 1.8 miles away from Enrique's shop, Andres Segovia did a concert at 10 o'clock that evening. I'm going to show you on this clipboard here the advertisement for the concert in La Vanguardia newspaper, daily newspaper. I also want to mention all the known owners of Enrique Garcia guitars that were purchased in the lifetime while he was alive. Francisco Tarrega had 1904 Enrique Garcia, number 43. Got his second one, 1906, number 74. In stock we have number 81, 1907. Luis Cordero, the grandson of Dr. Fernando Cruz Cordero, the very first person to write a method book for the guitar while he was living in Argentina. This is covered in my book, Annotations for the History of the Classical Guitar. In Argentina, 1822 to 2000, 4 volumes, 21 pounds, $300 plus tax, shipping included in the United States, actually world round. I'll send it to you in Japan. I did that a few months ago. Had a 4-page review in Gendai Guitar magazine. Next person on the list, we have Martin Heel. Martin Heel was an astronomer and he was also a music critic. He wrote the reviews for Andres Segovia concerts done in June of 1920 when Andres arrived there for his very first tour of Argentina. And he also wrote reviews of Lolita Almiron and Agustin Barrios. And these were published in the book by Ricardo Munoz, Historia de la Guitarra, that was about 400 plus pages, hardbound, printed in the penitentiary of Buenos Aires, because Ricardo Munoz was a policeman. And we have Adolfo Luna eventually ended up with the 1904 Enrique Garcia number 43. He used that to record about 1929. Those ads mentioning their songs recorded with that guitar are in the Caras y Caretas magazines, full-page weekly ad. It's about the size of a TV Guide magazine. It could be 70 pages, 125 pages. We have Juan Ruano, who was the secretary of the Peña Guitarrística Tarrega. He owned number 119, number 213, Enrique Garcia. Juan Ruano was the person who sent the photo of Andres Segovia in a bathing suit, full one-piece, top and bottom, that's in my book. He was a good friend of Ricardo Munoz. I remember Ricardo Munoz in 1959 said, "Who am I going to get to publish my 7-8 volumes of the Historia Universal de la Guitarra?" And he said, "I don't know." So I chose various biographies and data from those 7 unpublished books, and I put that in my annotations. I gave him credit for what volume and what the name of each particular volume was, and that is the beginning of every entry in my book that I utilized. We have the recording artist Juan Parras del Moral. You see him in photos with Miguel Llobet playing, Andres Segovia looking on, Enrique Garcia standing in the background. Juan Parras del Moral He recorded 78 RPM records in the 1930s. I used to have my Golden Era CDs that I sold from 1998 up to about 2013. And sporadically still sell them, but I don't actively keep them in stock. I've still got a bunch left. We have Pepita Roca. She owned a Enrique Garcia guitar. She was a child prodigy, student of Francisco Tarrega. We have Mariano Cubas Martin. He's also mentioned as somebody that owned a Santos Hernandez ukulele, and that's mentioned in the My 50 Fretting Years by Ivor Morantz, published in 1979. Julio Sagreras in 1918 was on the cover of a piece of sheet music holding a Enrique Garcia guitar, and it would say Guitarras Garcia vertically on the sheet music cover. That's on my page of the 1907 Enrique Garcia that we have in stock. I think it's page 4 in my book, Annotations for the History of the Classical Guitar. Antonio Sinopoli, he met Domingo Pratt 3 weeks after Domingo Pratt arrived with an Enrique Garcia guitar on the 1st of January 1908. And so he owned one. His estudiante, Adela Del Valle, she also owned a Enrique Garcia guitar. Her name and his name, they're mentioned on the back of a Romero E. Fernandez ad where it shows Maria Luisa Anito sitting next to Miguel Ubet when they both did duets and solos and played at the Salon La Argentina in 1929. Maria Luisa Anito used a 1918 Enrique Garcia guitar when she did the duet recordings in 1929 for Odeon Parlophone. Agustin Barrios owned a 1923. Enrique Garcia was involved till his death to build that guitar and others. He had 4 or 5 sitting around, and Domingo Pratt got one. Domingo was probably the biggest effectual promoter for Enrique Garcia guitars in Argentina, much like Andres Segovia was why Herman Hauser's ended up being available at Palacio de Musica in Montevideo. We have 1918 Virgilio Manasco Raffo owned Enrique Garcia guitar. This 1918 Enrique Garcia was number 195. My colleague Richard Bernet, who did the foreword of my book, Annotations for the History of the Classical Guitar in Argentina, 1822 to 2000. He owns that. It's in his collection. Renata Tarrega, whose father, Graciano Tarrega, taught her how to play. She owned a 1919 Enrique Garcia guitar, and that was number 216. Another Tarrega student, Maria Palanca, she owned a 1905 that's still on the market available. So those are all the people I know, and I will gather more names. I just saw that video, Vida y Obra, of Emilio Pujol, where 8 minutes into the 55-minute video, you can see his 1905 Enrique Garcia guitar. Later they show it with several other instruments. And so I did this video today to let everyone know that on the 4th of January, 1916, La Vanguardia newspaper had this advertisement that mentioned you could go to Paseo de San Juan 110 and at Enrique Garcia's Guitarria, which means guitar shop in Spanish, you could purchase the tickets to the Andres Segovia concert that was held at 10 o'clock that evening. There was another shop at Rambla de las Flores, number 12, also in Barcelona. And as I mentioned earlier, Enrique Garcia's shop was 3 kilometers, 3.1 kilometers, 1.8 miles away from the Centro Gallego where the concert was held. History is wonderful, just like the Lord.